all who oppose me, beware.
Today we are going to talk about the Necromancer. The Necromancer is one of my absolute favorite classes. It was one of the first classes I ever played in Diablo 2. It is so fun, it is so cool, and with these new revamped graphics, I mean, oh my gosh, who doesn't want to summon an undead freaking skeleton horde? Am I right? So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the skills that necromancers have, the skill tree, right? That's how you get your skills. We're going to talk about popular builds. We're going to talk about how different items look. So, of course, looks are important, right? And we're also going to rank the necromancer in terms of all the other classes you could potentially choose, so you get a better idea of, you know, if I choose necromancer, what am I sacrificing? What am I going to excel at? What am I weaker at? So in terms of PvM, or player versus monster, as they say in Diablo 2, PvP, or player versus player, how gear dependent are necromancers? Is it a good first character? We're going to talk a little bit about what type of stat distribution necromancers usually go, and how about that leveling speed? How fast can you get to 99? Are they good? So with all that said, guys, let's begin. Let's start by taking a look at the skill tree for the Necromancer. Now, the way skill trees work is that it's broken out into tiers. You've got the level 1 row, then level 6, level 12, 18, 24, and 30. As you progress, you unlock new, more powerful abilities. Now, for the Necromancer, each skill tree is broken out into one of 3 different types of spells, or skills. You've got summoning, poison and bone, as well as curses. You can see here we're looking at all 3 trees all at once, which is a nice view. And why don't we just work left to right, and let's start by looking at the summoning skills, which are some of the coolest if you ask me. Now at level 1 you have 2 options. In the right side you have Raised Skeleton, and on the left side you have Skeleton Mastery. Those are 2 very powerful skills, each one allowing you to bolster your summoning abilities. Now, Raised Skeleton is pretty simple. You're raising a skeleton. The tooltip reads, raise an undead warrior from a corpse to fight for you. It's pretty cool, and as you put more points into it, you will be allowed to summon more skeletons, which is very, very cool. Skeleton Mastery improves the quality of your raised skeletons, magi, and revived, so skeleton mages, which we'll get to a little bit later. This is another very powerful ability or skill that will increase the strength of your summoned undead hordes. Moving on to the level 6 skill, there's only one, and that is Clay Golem. Now, Clay Golem is a new type of summon, but it is in fact a summon. It raises a golem from the earth to fight for you. It does physical damage, and it has synergies with Golem Mastery, Summon Resist, Blood Golem, Iron Golem, and Fire Golem, which we'll get to those abilities in a little bit. Now, unlike the summoned skeleton, the Clay Golem can be summoned without needing a corpse. Moving on to the level 12 abilities in the summoning skill tree, we have Golem Mastery, Raise Skeletal Mage. Over on the left is Golem Mastery, and what this does is it basically enhances the speed and life of your golems, and it has synergies, of course, with all the golem abilities. Now, Raise Skeletal Mage, one of my favorites, always looking forward to getting this one, raises an undead mage to fight for you. I think it's very cool. They do a various elemental damage types such as fire, lightning, cold, and poison. And unlike the golem skill, it does require a corpse in order to summon. Moving on to the level 18 skill, we have Blood Golem. Now this is a more powerful golem. This is, the tooltip reads, summon a golem made of your blood, which is very cool. It also does physical damage, and something to note about golems is that you can only have one golem of any type at a given time. Now we already talked about Clay Golem, so you could not have both a clay and a blood golem out at the same time. Moving on to the level 24 skills, we have Summon Resist and Iron Golem. Summon Resist is going to increase the resists of your summoned minions, so that's pretty much every single thing, whether that's a golem, a skeleton, or a revived minion. Very nice ability. As well as Iron Golem. Now this is one of the most powerful golems that you can create. It's a powerful golem at the cost of a metal item. The golem takes the properties of the sacrificed item. This is a very interesting golem because you can in fact take an item that would give an aura and turn it into an iron golem, and then that golem would then give that aura, which is very cool. The golem does physical damage, and it also reflects melee damage to attackers. So it is very cool, and one of the most powerful golems available for its very unique traits. Now at level 30, there are 2 more abilities. We have Fire Golem, which summons a golem of fire, and it is different from the other golems because it does not do physical damage. It actually does fire damage, which is very cool. Also, Revive, a staple of the summoning tree. We have the ability which basically revives an enemy minion as your minion, and it retains the stats of that minion. So for the most part, you can revive creatures that you slay. You can have up to 30 of them, and they're quite powerful. And that is really where you start to see a huge amount of summoned minions at your disposal. All right, moving on to the poison and bone skills. We have Teeth at level 1, which fires a barrage of summoned barbed teeth. This ability looks cool, not necessarily one of my favorites, but it is pretty cool, I think, for an early level ability. Kind of looks like vampire teeth, which I think is cool. But one of my particular favorites is bone armor. Now, I don't know why I did this as a kid, but I love just dumping tons of points into bone armor. It's a orbiting shield of bone that absorbs physical damage. This is really cool because, I mean, this scales very, very well. I remember I was nigh invincible in Act 1 because of bone armor. It absorbs quite a bit of physical damage as you start putting lots of points into it. So those are 2 level 1 tier spells. Once you reach level 6, you unlock 2 more spells, and those 2 spells are Poison Dagger as well as Corpse Explosion. Poison Dagger simply adds poison damage to a dagger, so you'll need to be using a dagger, and then you'll have some poison damage when you attack with that, as well as a very powerful additional ability, which is Corpse Explosion. This is a very powerful ability, of course, if you play Diablo 3. I'm sure you're familiar with Corpse Explosion. The prerequisite for it is you do need to pick up Teeth in order to get it. The damage type, which is interesting, is 50% physical damage and 50% fire damage. So keep that in mind. That is actually what Corpse Explosion does. 2 very, very fun abilities. I actually prefer Corpse Explosion. I think it's very cool. Moving on to the level 12 skills, we have Bone Wall as the only one, and what is there to say? It creates a barrier of bone. This is actually a very, very important ability because it's one of the best ways to stay alive, creating these bone walls that are quite powerful. So a nice ability which unlocks at level 12. Now, moving on to level 18, we have 2 of my absolute favorites. We have Poison Explosion, which releases a cloud of poisonous gas from a corpse. So, similar to Corpse Explosion, you do need a corpse in order to use this ability, but this will shoot poisonous gas instead of physical and fire. This will do poison damage. Now, the other skill that's unlocked at level 18 is Bone Spear. This is one of my go-tos and absolute favorites for progression as a necromancer. It summons a magical missile of bone. This is a very, very powerful skill, and it can be used quite effectively in many necromancer builds, and certainly a favorite of mine. Moving on to level 24, we have Bone Prison. This is essentially a more targeted bone wall, but Bone Prison summons a ring of bone to surround a target. This is very powerful and, of course, is going to be used to keep yourself alive, to create distance between you and the enemy. And it's very, very good. What's more to say? It's a very great ability. Moving on to the final tier, we have level 30 abilities, Poison Nova and Bone Spirit. Poison Nova creates a ring of poison, which explodes from the Necromancer. Of course, it does poison damage. It's quite powerful, and this is, again, used in many endgame builds. Certainly one that I definitely highly recommend. It's a great AoE ability. The other one is Bone Spirit. Unlike, Poison Explosion or Poison Nova, this is a single target spirit that tracks down an enemy or finds one of its own. It's very, very powerful, definitely. And it's... you need to get Bone Spear in order to get it, and it does a very nice amount of magic damage. So, very nice ability as well. Poison and bone spells, all very, very powerful. And with all of that said, let us move on to the third and final skill tree, Curses. Moving on to curses. Our first level 1 curse is Amplify Damage. This is an incredibly powerful early curse, and it's pretty much always worth getting some points in it. It increases the amount of damage received by 100%. Yes, that's right. Absolutely insane. And no matter what additional skill points you put into it, it simply just increases the radius. It does not increase the damage done. So Amplify Damage is absolutely incredible. Increases it by 100% on that target. So Amplify Damage, a staple for Necromancer curses. Moving on to level 6, we have Dim Vision and Weaken. Dim Vision will decrease the radius of awareness. Dim Vision is pretty good. And then Weaken decreases the damage the target can do. So this is pretty cool as well. As you put more points into it, the duration gets longer as well as the radius. The mana cost remains the same, however. Moving on to level 12 curses, we have 2 new exciting ones. We have Iron Maiden, which is also a band, I'm sure you know. Iron Maiden damage dealt is damage received. So essentially thorns, right? Whatever damage you're dealing, you are also taking. You can put that on an enemy. This at rank 1, level 1, it returns 200% of damage, and as you put more skills into it, it will increase the percentage all the way up to, at level 20, 675% damage returned, which is a lot. The other curse is Terror. Cursed monsters run in fear. As you put more points into it, the duration in which they are running in fear increases. So kind of cool, actually. Now moving on to level 18, we have Confuse and Life Tap. So Confuse, cursed monsters attack randomly. They will attack each other, which is very cool. And then we also have Life Tap. Attacking a cursed soul gives you health. So this is pretty sweet because it's going to allow you to very much stay alive. Very, very good curse indeed. Moving on to Attract and Decrepify. We have Attract, which causes other monsters to target your enemy. So similar to Confuse, but Attract, essentially, you put it on someone, and whoever is cursed with Attract is going to get targeted by other minions, other monsters, which is kind of cool. And then you also have Decrepify, which targets speed, damage, and physical resistance, minus 50%. This is a very nice curse because reducing all of those is quite nice. A lot of your minions do physical damage as well, and reducing the damage and speed and physical resistance all in one curse is very nice. And finally, our level 30 curse, we have Lower Resist, a extremely powerful curse. Elemental attacks do more damage to the cursed monster. This is especially fantastic when you are, either in a party with someone who is doing elemental damage, such as lightning, frost, fire, or yourself with poison, for example. So this is a very nice curse that you can probably see built into many other builds. As you put more points into it, the duration increases. And the resist minus percentage also increases all the way up to minus 62%. So, with all that said, we've gone through all of the skill trees for the Diablo 2 Necromancer. And next, let's take a look at some popular builds. Alright guys, let's talk some builds in Diablo 2 Resurrected. There's basically 3 main types of builds. You've got the Summoner Necromancer, the Bone Spear Necromancer, and the Poison Nova Necromancer. And there's a couple different ways to do things, but I'm going to break it out into PvP and PvM for each of these 3 builds. And of course, there's also hybrid builds, so you can create your own, but I'm just showing you some of the more popular ones. So with that said, guys, let's go ahead and check out the Summoner build. Over here, we start in the Summoning skill tree. You're basically going to want to max out your Raise Skeleton ability. You're also going to want to max out your Skeleton Mastery ability. You're also going to want to max out your Raise Skeleton Mage ability. Now, as we talked through in the skills portion of the video, a golem that's really powerful is the Iron Golem. The Iron Golem, when you use it on an item that has an aura effect, it gains that aura, so it is quite nice to have that skill, and then having at least 1 point in summon resist is very nice. And so right now, by the way, this is the PvP Summoner build. Sorry if I didn't say that at the start. Now, if we move over to the curses, this is pretty simple. If we're looking at PvP for a Summoner build, we want Amplified Damage, and we also want Iron Maiden. It's going to be very nice when going up against other players. Now, when we move over to the Poison and Bone tree, we want 1 point into Teeth, and then we also want to get Bone Wall, Bone Prison. These are very nice abilities as well. 1 point into Corpse Explosion, 1 point into... Oh, sorry, we actually want... Yes, 1 point into Bone Spear, and then we actually want to max out Bone Spirit up to 20. And the reason for that is in PvP, Bone Spirit, as you know, tracks down the enemy. It's going to be very powerful in order to, fight the enemy. And you also can get 1 point into Bone Prison as well. This is a nice PvP ability. At this point, you have 17 points left. Depending on your needs, maybe you want more Bone Armor. Maybe you want more Summon Resist. Maybe you want more in the synergies for Bone Spirit, which could be Bone Spear or Teeth. It depends on you if you want more offense or more defense in this build, but it's really up to you. This is sort of the backbone of the build for PvP Summoner. All right, let's look at PvM Summoner builds, okay? So pretty much very similar to PvP, we're going to go ahead and max out our Raised Skeleton skill. We're going to go ahead and max out our Raised Skeleton Mage skill. Man, this is so fun. And then we're also going to put 20 points into Skeleton Mastery for both of those skeletons. Then, after that, we are going to go ahead and get 1 point into these abilities in order to get that Iron Golem unlocked. And then, of course, we also want Revive for, once again, this is PvM. We just want Revive at 1 point because we let plus skills take care of the rest. We do not want to max out the the Revive ability. Now let's skip over to curses. This is pretty straightforward. You basically just want one of every curse except for Confuse and Amplify and Attract, because these two aren't that great. But we do want Dim Vision. Can be helpful in PvM situationally, just like all these are kind of situational. And if we move over to Poison and Bone, our last tree, skill tree to go to, we basically want to put 1 point into Teeth, and then we want to put 20 points into Corpse Explosion, as this is going to be our main damaging ability. If you remember the PvP build, Bone Spear was our secondary ability. Well, for PvM, we're looking for splash. There's a lot of monsters, right? Hack and slash game. We're going to be looking for that that Corpse Explosion ability. It's going to be very, very helpful. Now, at this point, we are talking, Hell mode. Your resistances are super low. They do a lot of damage. You're going to want to put the rest of your points into Summon Resist. And that completes our PvM Summoner build. And with that said, let's move on to our different Bone Spear builds. Now, once again, let's start with the PvP version of Bone Spear first. Of the Bone Spear build first. So basically we want to get 1 point into Clay Golem. We're also going to want to get Golem Mastery, and we're also going to want to get Summon Resistances. From there, we are definitely going to want to get Iron Golem for that aura once again. Moving over to the Curses tree, we want 1 point into Amplify Damage. And now moving over to the Poison and Bone tree, this is where we're going to start spending some serious points. So we're talking PvP here. So we're going to put 20 points into Teeth because we're going to get synergies there. We're also going to put 1 point into Corpse Explosion because that unlocks Bone Spear, which we are going to go ahead and put 20 points into that. And we're also going to put 20 points into Bone Spirit, which is an alternative attack. If you're too far away, you don't even see them on your screen, spamming some Bone Spirits are a great way to try to hit from really far away. 1 point into Bone Armor in order to unlock Bone Wall and Bone Prison. And then basically once you have these are all synergies actually. So what you actually want to do is start maxing them out. So 20 points into Bone Wall is going to be a synergy, and then 20 points into Bone Prison is also going to be a synergy. Now at this point you have 2 points left. You can't really do too much with 2 points, so you can just put them perhaps in Bone Armor. But this is really pushing the limits. This is a very aggressive Bone Spear PvP build. You've got the Golem for the aura. You've got a lot of really just trying to synergize your Bone Spear and Bone Spirit build here with all these skills, and just amplify damage for the curses. So very aggressive PvP Bone Spear build. Definitely one that I think would fare quite well. Now, moving on to PvM, let's look at the PvM version of the Bone Spear build. Of course, we are going to do some very similar things. We're looking at a 20 point into Teeth. We're looking at 1 into Corpse Explosion to unlock 20 points into Bone Spear. We're also going to put 20 points into Bone Spirit. So all you can see very similar things. Of course, we want the Bone Armor. We also want Bone Wall. Of course, we also want Bone Prison synergies, but also nice to have. Corpse Explosion is nice, but we're only going to put 1 point into that. When it comes to curses, we basically are going to want to get these other curses for PvM. I would say you don't want these 3 once again. For PvM, you could get Dim Vision again, but these are really the main ones. Let's get it just to have it, but it's not too useful. And again, Attract and Confuse aren't really very useful. So, at this point, this is sort of the core. For PvM, you could, obviously max out more of these abilities for synergy. The main difference between PvM and PvP is that you're just having more utility with your curses. This life tap can be very, very powerful to keep you alive in PvM. From here, you have 38 points to do as you wish. But that is essentially the core of the PvM Bone Spear build. And with that said, let's move on to our final type of build, which is the Poison Nova build. So let's start once again with PvP. Of course, we're going to want 1 point in Teeth because that is a prerequisite skill. You have to get this first one, and then we can also get 1 point into Bone Armor, and that this is a good to have. Also, Poison Explosion. In order to get unlocked, that you have to put 1 point into both Poison Dagger and Corpse Explosion. We're gonna put 20 points into Poison Explosion, as well as 20 points into Poison Nova. So these are basically all synergies. We actually also want 20 points into Poison Dagger. So you really want to get max points of the ability you're going to be using, and the synergy abilities as well. Bone Wall is nice. It's helpful to, obviously, zone your enemy, keep them where you want them. And you could even get Bone Prison as well in order to capture your enemy. I don't know why I can't. Oh yeah, I have to get Bone Spear. Okay. So yeah, at this point, pretty good stuff. Let's move over to the Curses tree. You're going to want to amplify damage. You're also going to want to do things a little bit differently this time than other PvP builds. You're actually going to want to go ahead and go all the way down the tree and get lower resistance, because this is going to be your main curse as a Poison Nova Necromancer. Now you're doing poison damage, so you're going to want to get the ability to lower your opponent's resistances. Now, in the summoning tree, this is actually quite important, so pay attention to this one. You're going to want to get Clay Golem. You're also going to want to get Blood Golem. You're also going to want to get Golem Mastery, Summon Resist, as well as Iron Golem. But for the first time ever, we are going to get Fire Golem. Because this is going to be our main golem to finish off opponents. Now, if you're familiar with poison damage, you know that it can get opponents to 1, but it doesn't kill. You can't die of poison, right? It gets you to 1, and then you just live with 1 HP. Well, this Fire Golem is going to be the golem that finishes off your opponents with Fire Aura when they have 1 HP after you've done all that damage. So now at this point, guys, this is a fun, exciting build, of course. The Poison Nova. You have 31 points left. You've pretty much maxed out your synergies here. You could do some more defensive options, with Bone Armor. You could. There's room for flexibility in what you want to do here. Maybe you want more Bone Prison, more Bone Wall. So it's kind of up to you where you want to put the rest of these points. But this is sort of the backbone of what you should do with this Poison Nova PvP build. Now for our last build, let's talk a little bit about PvM Poison Nova. So for PvM, we're going to put a little bit more points into summoning. We're actually going to put 20 points into Raised Skeleton and 1 point into skeleton mastery. So raise skeleton, skeleton mastery. This is going to be a nice. You're gonna have a good number of skeletons, maxed out number of skeletons, as well as a little bit of nice skeleton mastery. You're also going to go ahead and pick up clay golem. And the reason we're getting clay golem is so that we can unlock our favorite friend here, iron golem, for insight. So it's important to go ahead and get that going. Now, at this point, we can move over to poison and bone, and we're going to put 1 point into teeth, bone armor, corpse explosion, as well as many points into poison dagger, which should look similar, poison explosion, 20 points, as well as 20 points into poison nova. So once again, these all have synergy, so we want to max them out. Once you have this sort of all set, you can move over to curses, and again, we're going to go ahead and get all of these curses in order to unlock lower resistances. Lower resist and decrepify are both really strong. I should say decrepify, yes, is definitely very, very good. Dim vision can be useful for crowd control, so you could get it, but confuse and attract definitely are not super useful. So with all that said, you have 15 points left. You can actually just dump the rest of it into corpse explosion for that synergy. And there you go, that's the build. And of course, it's up to you if you want to do something different in this PvM build. But these are just some of the Necromancer builds that are popular, that most people will go. And hopefully you find some success with them. Alright, check it out. This is what the Diablo 2 Resurrected Necromancer armors look like. So this video is getting crazy long, so if you want to look at them, you can pause, but I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next part of this Necromancer video, and we're going to start talking about, so, how good was Necromancer? So overall, Necromancers have some extremely unique and powerful abilities. They have access to the curses that are incredibly powerful that you've seen throughout Diablo 2. These curses are incredible. They really set the Necromancer apart with how amazing of a debuff that they can put on enemies from such great distance. Curses are incredibly powerful, and most people don't know how to use curses properly, so it adds a little bit of a skill ceiling to Necromancer. In addition to that, no other class can summon as many minions as the Necromancer. I mean, you can have so many skeletons, skeletal mages, revive units. I mean, the Summoner Druid can come, can make a lot of, ravens and wolves and things like that. But really, the Summoner Necromancer really tops it out with the number of summons. When it comes to PvM, what are the absolute best classes? I would say that Necromancer is top tier. Necromancer is not a paladin, it's not a sorceress, let's be honest, it's not, the best of the best, but Necromancer, I would say, is right under that. I would say Necromancer is a very, very top pick for, in terms of player versus monster, and in terms of player versus player. It's a little bit harder, I would say, player versus player. I don't think Necromancer is as strong as some of the alternatives, but I would definitely say if you were to place the Necromancer on a tier, if it was S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, I would say that Necromancer is almost S tier, but he would fall into A tier, kind of right in between the two, just because I know how powerful paladins and sorceress are. I would say that the Necromancer is a very, very powerful class, though, among the best, for sure. Now, some of the other topics to discuss are, is the Necromancer gear dependent? Not really, actually. You can make a budget Necromancer pretty easily, which makes it a good class to make as your first character. Sorceress is also another great class to make as your first character, but the Necromancer is not super gear dependent because you can get a lot of stats from, or a lot of skill points from your gear, but you can also just run pure Necromancer. You don't need the rare items to make it work. There are certain, a lot of melee builds need to have the angelic set just to be able to hit, with the exception of the Smite or Paladin. Smite always hits. So Necromancer, not gear dependent, good first character, very high, rankings in terms of how powerful. Many people don't know how to play Necromancer correctly, at least I remember that back in the day, but those that master the Necromancer are surely a force to be reckoned with. When it comes to stat distribution, Necromancers have it very simple. They only put enough points into strength in order to wear their gear. They put absolutely 0 points into dexterity, which helps with hit and armor. They put all of their points into vitality to get more health, and they put none of their points into energy. So that is how a Necromancer would put their stats. When it comes to leveling speed, I would say Necromancer, I think your leveling speed has to do with how fast you can clear mobs. Absolutely can clear mobs like crazy. They've got amplify damage. They've got everything they need to do work on their enemies. Summoner Necromancer, with his hordes of skeletons and revived minions, as well as corpse explosion, can deal with any enemy very quickly and in mass amounts. The Necromancer is a solid choice, whether it be your first character or your last character. It is equipped to take on the game. The lore and the fun behind being a priest of Rathma is extremely compelling, and I highly recommend you try out playing a Necromancer. It's definitely going to be one that is going to be very popular, I predict. So, with that said, guys, that is the entirety of what I promised in this Necromancer guide. If you liked this Necromancer guide and appreciate all the work that went into it, I'd appreciate if you give it a like. And if you want more Diablo 2 Resurrected content, don't forget to subscribe so I can see you again next time. With all that said, guys, my name is Toyhouze, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.